Sometimes I really struggle with perfectionism. It is funny because traditional drawing is my art form of choice and watercolor is my favorite medium. As if I personally love my own suffering. This drawing is a perfect example. Look, in a few minutes I'm gonna be redoing it from scratch. So, it is not uncommon for artists to be perfectionists. It's actually quite common. Really common. We strive for perfection, and in this process we are getting miserable, stressed, and pretty unhappy with ourselves. And like a lot of artists, I am also often thinking that I am not good enough, that my art is bad and that I'm just lagging behind, while everyone else has everything figured out. It is also funny because logically I know that it is a really common mindset of creative people, and it doesn't make sense to think that we're all lagging behind at the same time. But sadly, logic has nothing to do with emotions. And I don't think that I am qualified to give any advice on the topic of perfectionism. Absolutely not. I myself still need to figure out how to let go of this idea of perfection and how to be kinder to myself. But I still want to share how I personally am trying to do something about it. Not as advice, because all our brains work differently and different things work for different people, but more like to share my thought process. First of all, I think that for me, the worst thing that perfectionism can bring is demotivation and creative paralysis. This feeling that anything you do is not enough and that you just mess everything up, and it's easier not to start or not to finish what is already started because drawing perfection that you want is impossible. Been there, done that. It leads to procrastination, it leads to a million excuses for why there is no sense to sit down and just draw. There are common ones like, this art piece is bad, I don't want to finish it, or if I continue I'm just going to mess this up. But I have my personal favorite because it is really stupid and has nothing to do with art at all. It's too cloudy outside, the lighting is too bad. What a perfect excuse, right? It doesn't even make sense because I can just turn the lights on, or if I'm in no mood for traditional drawings, I can do something digitally. But oh boy, my brain loves this excuse. Everything needs to be perfect, and that includes drawing conditions, my mood, and other random stuff. And for the record, this sort of thinking makes me really unproductive on winters. But anyway, excuses are excuses. All they do is just block us from even trying. And this is the worst. Again, logically, I understand that without doing something, something cannot be done. That if I quit drawing halfway, the drawing could never be finished. This means that it never could be, perfect, as says perfectionists inside me. But it is hard. It is really hard to pull through this. And I think it is truly the worst thing that perfectionism brings. You can work on self-love and on trying to find positives in your work and praise yourself for progress, even if it takes a lot of time and effort, but it's easier when you do actually have drawings and progress and good things to talk about, because otherwise it just turns into a self-fulfilling prophecy, and I really don't like thinking about it. The rule that I implemented for myself, that I don't know if it's healthy or not, is to finish everything. Everything. And by that I mean, if you don't completely hate it, finish it. It doesn't need to be ideal, it just needs to be done, and then you could move on to the new thing. And if you do hate it so much that you don't want to continue, redraw it from scratch. Okay, I said before that it is not an advice. For myself, I call it stubbornness. It surely stems from perfectionism, but I don't think that this is necessarily the same. Redrawing the same thing 2, 3 or 4 times, and yes, I do this sometimes, may feel the same type of unproductive activity as, for example, constantly rewriting beginning of your first draft of the book to the point that after years you still have only first 5 chapters, but it kinda feels different to me. Maybe because my art projects tend to be a lot shorter than writing an entire book, to the point that it is possible to do 2 or 3 versions of the same drawing in a few weeks, depending on how busy I am. And why do I like this beautiful activity of redrawing the same piece? Because it is easiest way for me to actually see my progress, to actually see the good parts, and to accept previous imperfections not as failure but as a part of the learning and growing process. Maybe because I do mostly traditional drawings, but I feel that it is very easy to mess up a drawing. Bad composition, bad colors, bad anatomy, literally any mistake that can happen in the process. All of this is unavoidable because every drawing has a first attempt. And sometimes I just cannot figure everything out in this one attempt. Sometimes I need to find what I want and try this next time. And for this, I need to try stuff. I need to be brave and experiment a bit to understand if it works or not. This mindset made me worry less about paper and worry more about the idea itself. Before, I viewed a drawing as a thing I started on this specific sheet of paper from this specific sketch. Right now, I can have 3 different paper sheets for this one thing I want to draw, because I think that the idea itself is worth trying it a few times. And every attempt, as I figure out what is the best way to do the thing I want to do, becomes better than the one before. It feels like progress. And it feels good to think, yeah, I drew it better than what I did a week ago. It may not be as good as I imagined it in my head, but it still feels better, more satisfying. And the other thing I like about this strategy of redrawing stuff, before it I was really scared to mess up my sketch. You know this feeling. Perfect sketch that is later completely destroyed by line art and colors. Real tragedy that happens to everyone. Now, for some of my redraws, I will copy the previous sketch through copy paper. But most of the time, I am going to redraw the sketch from the beginning. I want to admit it is devastating. New sketch is never completely the same as the one I fell in love with. But it can be decent, and it even can have its own better parts. Which means what? That I can never actually mess up a drawing. Yeah, I can mess up this attempt, but it's not like it was the last attempt that I could have had. It really takes the weight off my shoulders. I used to have this all or nothing thinking, like if I cannot do something good, I shouldn't even try. But learning doesn't happen overnight. Learning needs time and attempts. It doesn't make sense at all that I was punishing myself for trying when a drawing didn't come out as I imagined it, because it wasn't a failure. I was just figuring this thing out. It is focus on journey, not on destination. It is satisfaction I get from the feeling that, yeah, these few weeks I drew something that went to trash, but at the end it all contributed to this one art piece that I like, that I'm proud of because I finished it, that gave me this lesson and experience which will help me next time, and that will make it easier. And the important thing is that I keep drawing. Every day that I can, I try to just sit for at least half an hour and do something. Not a masterpiece created from some awesome magical inspiration, but a simple sketch or continuation of something I started before. Not for the result, but for process. For this feeling that I'm just doing something that I love to do, for me, for my enjoyment, because it is how it's supposed to feel. Enjoyable. Sadly, it's not easy to always keep this mindset going. Our process, after all, mostly feels like wading through a jungle rather than like taking a pleasant walk. I think it's like type 2 fun, you know? Sometimes not so fun in the process, but really fulfilling in retrospect. Doing art is hard, and we as artists often have a lot of doubts because we put a lot of our feelings into it. Because we do care a lot, because we feel that our art is important. Because of this, we want so much for it to be perfect. That means that we have to do it. We have to do art. Just sit down and draw and learn and discover and take this journey to the art world. Trying to get one step closer to perfection, even if perfection itself is impossible to achieve. I don't have a really satisfying conclusion because I myself did not figure it out. I still don't have enough experience and I'm still battling my own perfectionism. One thing I hope for is that sometimes in the future we'll be kind to ourselves and we'll be able to accept our imperfections and mistakes. And we'll enjoy art. This drawing you see on the speed paint is a continuation of me redrawing my childhood art to reinvent these cute little scenes and characters. I don't really know what's going on here, but this little gremlin was for sure fun to draw. Thank you everyone for watching this video. This was Raf and I hope to see you in the next one.